Negative, K, nothing further, just...
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do?
Oh, hi, hello. Wow, you guys got me unexpected here. Hi, well, I hope you guys are ready for another spraycasso show. You guys are a little early, aren't you? Tell you what, let me put on my spraycasso suit. I will be right out. We can talk about today's show. I have some pretty good techniques I want to show you, as well as some very advanced ones. I think these techniques will take you, your spray painting to a whole new level. Give me a moment. Okay, much better, huh? Alright, like I said, we have some pretty interesting paintings to show you today, and some very awesome techniques. So if you guys are ready, grab your spray paint and your mask. Let's get started, huh? So I'm thinking, I got my pencil, right? A black pen. This is my eraser. Pretty cool, huh? It's a little spray can eraser. This is actually, I think it's called a knead eraser, and you can shape it. We used it actually. I took several classes in architecture, so we used to use these a lot. We used to shape them so that whenever we put a ruler or something on a line, we can mold the eraser to fit perfectly. I also used to use these in art class, so they're pretty nifty. That's what I'll be using. Okay, I have drawn here. You can barely see it. It's a church. See that? So what I'm going to do here is, with my pen and a ruler, now, what I'm thinking is that we're probably going to add, maybe something that looks like this, and add, we can either add a little roof, a little gabled roof going this way. See that? We can add that, and then perhaps make this tower stick out a little bit so that it is not flat. Yeah. Do something like this. Maybe a roof like that. See that? And we'll still have to add a little bit of that building that sticks out. Here, we can add a little roof. This will be our doors. Of course, it can be a little straighter. But you guys get the point, right? You get a really good idea of how you want your painting to look. And then the X-Acto knife. See, I even brought that. This is just a circle that I got at Hobby Lobby, paintings on this. So I was actually thinking that maybe we can do the painting of the church on this, and then just create a little scenery in the background. Do it on a foam board. We can even do it on a foam board back here, or on a poster board. So, I don't know, I'm kind of debating it, guys. But for now, the back of this is going to become my cutting board. So I'm just going to sit here and cut this out. Alright guys, so this is a stencil that we cut out. Now, what I always recommend on doing when you're working with stencils is you kind of just use a little bit of black and outline the stencil. That way you know exactly where your stencil is going to be, and you don't have to. It takes a lot of the guessing work out of the way. So let's start on the roof here on the left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and tape it off, so that way, okay, that way we can create a nice transitional effect on the roof and not have to have a lot of that extra spray paint hit the other parts of this building. So I'm going to use a little bit of tape, more or less position it where the roof bends, just like this. Okay, and I'm going to create a transition from dark brown to maybe an orange to yellow to maybe a little bit of white. And that's because I'm going to create a light source coming from the left side of this painting that's going to be hitting the roof. So let me just move that down a little bit, just like so. Alright, now I'm going to create the slant. See, I went ahead and I taped off the rest of the church so it doesn't get all this spray paint on top of it. And a little bit of orange and brown. Okay, just like that. And perhaps maybe we can even use, like I said, a little bit of yellow. And we can use a straight edge on this to help us create this effect a little better. See, I don't want the yellow to overpower the rest of the building, just maybe on the very edge. Okay, now we got the effect that we wanted. Now I'm going to take off this tape, and this is going to take a little while, guys, because you want your painting to dry before you add more tape to it. See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put more tape on top of this roof to protect it. See, okay, it's completely dry. You want to make sure it's completely dry, guys. Now you can use the liquid masking that I've used in, I believe, is a couple other tutorials. One of them being the wolf tutorial. But I thought I'd show you guys this technique. Okay, you know it's completely dry when you can remove painter's tape and nothing comes out. I thought I'd show you guys how to create this other technique. That way, if you guys don't have that watercolor masking liquid, you guys can use tape, just like I'm doing here. Either way, you guys, you're going to have to wait until it's dry. Now, I went ahead and I did my painting on this piece of wood. In some cases, okay, now here I'm just going to make sure I get the roof right where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to use a marker, a little Sharpie here. That's where my roof is. Okay, now in a lot of cases, guys, depending on the wood, you're going to have to add a nice little, a couple layers of clear coat before you begin painting on it, because it'll absorb it, kind of like a matte board. But in this case, I noticed that the wood was pretty smooth, so it works. I'm not really a wood expert. I can't tell you what kind of wood this is, but just feel it. If it feels pretty smooth, more than likely you can paint on it without having too many layers of clear coat. Now, see, with an X-Acto knife, I went ahead and I cut the outline of the roof, and I removed the excess tape, leaving just that roof. So now we know that that roof is protected, right? No matter how much spray paint we put on top of it, nothing's going to happen to it. Let's work on this roof on the top. Use a little bit of orange and a little bit of brown. And I'm going to have to also use the highlight colors that I used on the roof below. So a little bit of yellow, right, because we're going to have the sun hitting it. Okay. Nice. And perhaps a touch of white. Okay. Set that white. There you go. Now, you know, it does take a little bit of practice, guys, and I hope you guys don't get discouraged. I do encourage you to try this technique. You know, if there's buildings that you like in your neighborhood, in the city where you live at, you might want to, just take a picture of the building, draw it up, put it on your canvas, paint it, and then go talk to the manager of that building and show them what you can do. Perhaps they'll buy the painting from you, or perhaps they'll let you put some of your work on there. Okay. I'm just using white here. Now I'm going to create the shadow of the roof. Alright, so I'm using my straight edge, and I'm just bouncing the black off the straight edge onto the poster board. Or, sorry, in this case, the piece of wood. Alright, now I'm going to create the curve right here where the building, makes a sharp corner. Not too hard, right? Now, this is the part of this structure that I want to stick out. So I'm going to use a little bit of purple. Yep, you heard me right, purple. Black will work just as well. It's just that I actually have some purple, so I'm going to use a little bit of the purple and a little bit of the black. Not too much. You don't want to make a real thick layer. See that? That's good. Now I'm going to use white, and I'm going to go on top of that very lightly, just a thin layer of white, just to kind of tone down the shadows, so that the shadows aren't too black, too purple. So it'll even out. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to add a little bit of black here on this side, right? Because this is the other side of that tower. Nice. Now don't worry too much about the windows. I know they're getting covered with white and the shadows that we're using. This is that other part of the roof. Nice. Okay, now I'm gonna work on the doors of this church. I'm just gonna use tape. Spray paint can be a little hard to control sometimes. You push it a little bit, and especially if the can is new, you'll get quite a bit of spray paint. Alright, so I went ahead and just masked off the areas. Make sure that they're nice and dry. Guys, even I have had problems with this before. You think your painting is dry, and nope, sorry. There goes all your hard work. We don't want that happening. So I'm just going to bounce off a little bit of the black onto the canvas here. Nice, and see, that'll give us the effect that the doors are submerged into the building, that this tower sticks out a little bit further than the doors. Now you can spend a lot more time and actually go into great detail with these shadows, perhaps around the windows. Now what I'm doing here is I'm working on the background. This church is completely covered in tape. I did the same thing. I covered it up in tape, and then I cut the excess tape off. Okay, so I don't want you guys thinking that I'm painting on top of the building that we just made. Now I'm working on the background. I'm adding some sunset colors, a little bit of yellow, orange, some red. And I want my lighter colors to be on the upper left-hand side of this. So I'm going to add my yellow here. Perhaps maybe even a little bit of white. I intend on creating sun rays hitting this building, as well as maybe some of the plant life that we can put here on the side. I'm also doing like a transitional phase here on the sky in the background. I'm going to put a little bit of green, a little bit of blue here on the side, and I want to create the effect that it's maybe transitioning from dawn to from day to dawn, or vice versa, sunset. Now do you see where the blue is mixing with the red? It's creating a nice little purple. That's okay too, guys. It'll give your painting a bit more realistic sky, huh? Alright, now let's work on this plant life here on the bottom. I'm using a little bit of black. You can also start with the green. See, I'll show you that over here. The black will just be the darker side of this plant life that you're putting in the background of these bushes. So you can start off with the green, but you eventually have to put a little bit of black here on the bottom part, just like so. And see, now it looks like it blends from like a dark green to a lighter green to a more forest-like green. Alright, let's add maybe a little bit of highlights to this bushes or trees in the background. A little bit of yellow. You could do this with white as well. Now, you can do it this way, which, you know, of course it looks good, but I think I'm going to actually add also a little bit more roughness to these bushes, you know. I don't want them to look very smooth. So a little bit of black and green. Try and stay in the middle of the two colors. That way you get a nice transition from a dark green to green. Just like, okay, we're going to do that to both sides. You guys have seen me use this technique on trees as well. Also, you can also do flowers with this. Just make sure you try and stick in the middle of the two colors. And, you know, these are techniques that I'll also show you in the videos to come. Now, this painting takes a little bit longer than the average spray painting, you know. I think my average spray painting takes about 3 to 4 minutes. It depends if I'm explaining, you know, what I'm doing, my techniques. If I'm taking it slow. But, I mean, if I take it slow, it takes a little longer than that. But the average is 3 to 5 minutes. This one actually took a little bit longer because, well, as you can tell, we have to wait for a lot of layers to dry. And that's okay too, guys. I mean, take your time with some of these paintings. You know, the more time you spend on them, the more realistic it'll look, the better effects you can get. Of course, when it's time to, you know, speed spray paint, well, you know, some of these techniques come in handy, but obviously you can't work in too many layers, waiting for layers to dry. But these are more advanced techniques, and I hope you guys practice them. Alright, so you guys have seen me use this technique before, right? The sun ray technique. And just a little bit of white, and there you have your transition. See how it goes from white to yellow to an orangey red, and then from purple to blue. Looks pretty nice, huh? You can actually leave it like this. You know, maybe concentrate on the bottom, create some flowers down here. Or, you know, in my case, I think I'm going to go ahead and just add some trees. A combination of brown, maybe a little bit of black. We'll see what that looks like. Maybe we can create some lighter colored trees in the background. A little bit of orange and yellow. See, I don't want those trees to be too dark. I want the effect that they're off in the distance and the sunlight's hitting them, that they look different colors. They look lighter than the ones that are going to be here in the front ground. Right? So, a little bit of brown and black. We can come back, if you think this is too dark, we can always come back and add a lighter color. Then we can use the spraycasso tool and mix it together. Mix the light into the black, you know, creating a light effect. Alright, in this case I think I'm going to add a little bit of orange. Now, see, what you can do is you can practice to see what your trees are going to look like. Maybe you have too much spray paint on your funnel. Maybe you don't have enough orange. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a little bit more orange, a little bit of yellow, getting that lighter color tree to come out. So, you know, it's okay to keep a spare piece of paper here on the side. And so see, you get a lighter color tree. Nonetheless, it still has some of that black, so you can still create the bark effect. Now, I'm going to add some of this lighter color to this dark tree here on one side, and then I can always mix it with either the tip of this funnel or the spraycasso tool. Okay, and that's what we have. Now, what do you say we work on those trees in the background? Make sure if you have 2 spraycasso funnels, that's great. I usually just carry one around, and that's not very wise. But I try and get all the spray paint out just by swinging it wildly. It usually gets all over the place. No, I'm kidding. I have a trash can. So I'm going to use a little bit of orange and yellow. That way we get a real light orange, kind of like a peach color. I'm going to create these trees here in the background. Alright. Now it's okay if you overlap the church. Remember, if you do that, it's just going to look like the tree is behind it and not in front of it. That's right, because we have that protective tape in front of it. Okay. I'm also going to add some highlights, some more highlights to these bushes that we just created here on the bottom. You can use a little bit of green and white together. That'll give you a real light green. And see, I've already used it, so it looks pretty nice. As for the bushes on top, the tree leaves, since you want to give the effect that they're off in the distance, I'm using a little bit of orange and white. You'll see that'll give you the effect that they're back there somewhere. Okay, now with a little bit of brown. Now keep in mind that my sponge already has colors, colors that I've used, like the tree leaves and the bushes on the bottom. So I am keeping that under consideration. It's not like just my bushes are completely brown. They're going to have other colors into it. It's what we call a contaminated brush, right? When it's got more than one color into it. Now, I went ahead and I tipped off pretty good the stencil back together, right? Because I don't want any other of the lines showing up when I do this. This is where the windows is going to go. So I'm adding a little bit of purple here. Maybe I'll do a nice transition from purple to orange. I'm actually afraid to move my fingers, guys, because all this spray paint layers that I have on this has kind of made my hand really sticky, and I'm afraid of moving it and then just taking the stencil with me. So keep that in mind whenever you're working with stencils. Now I do want my hand there as well, because it'll put pressure onto the stencil. Okay. The only bad thing about it, it looks like you have painted nails. Purple painted nails. What's even worse, huh? Well, for guys. Now here I'm going to create a reflection. So this is kind of like a reflection technique that I use for glass. Our windows are a little smaller, but when you have bigger buildings, that have bigger windows, it looks really nice. Pretty realistic too. Now see, I'm creating the reflection like at a 45-degree angle on all these windows. Mostly because that makes it look more realistic. Not only that, you have your light coming in from the upper left-hand side. Right, so it coordinates with the light rays that are coming down. Now see, the extra tape is just in case some of the spray paint got through other areas. So you see, guys, you see why it takes a long time to create something like this? Yeah, it takes a little bit of patience too. Patience is not my strong point. So I probably won't be doing too many of these. You see how the glass looks pretty nice in the background? Now here I'm using orange and white, and I'm just tapping in between the two colors. That way you get a transition from white to orange. Yeah. Let me show you that again. You tap in the middle, and you'll see that the white is at the very tip of these plants. Okay, so that's exactly what we want to do. Now you can do that with the orange, and with with the purple and the white in the background is the same technique, guys. I just used a little bit of purple and a little bit of white, and I put the sponge in between the two. The tip touching the white a little bit more than the orange and or purple. Now you can do this technique to create different, flowers on the ground. You can do this with blue, purple, green, orange, red, all sorts of cool colors. And as long as you have that white tip at the end, it'll look like there's light hitting it. You guys ready to see what we created? There you go. It did take a little time, but that was expected, right? Because we were working with so many layers. Now, I like this effect. I call it the dreamlike effect. I've done this in a couple of my other tutorials, and I think you guys like it too. I've heard some pretty good things about it. And that's where I just use a little bit of black and go around the edges. Now, do you see how that sun ray, the sunlight just kind of got dim because of the black? You can always go over it with a little bit of white when you're done with it. Now, maybe you guys don't see the painting as well as you should, so I'm going to put it in a white background here in a little bit, just to show you how it sticks out with the black. But first, let's add that light again. I really want that light to show. It'll bring balance to the painting. Okay. I hope you guys really like this tutorial. Let me know what you think of it. If you guys want to see more, I'll definitely spend the time and make maybe some more complicated buildings. It's all up to you guys if you guys want to see this techniques a little more. These are definitely advanced techniques. And there you go, folks. Let's take a closer look at that. Yeah, I signed it with the marker. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave me the comments here and I'll read them. Well, folks, until next time, keep those cans shaking, huh? Bye.